lunch and I said, how many are we owing to train orphans? They say 1 million. And they are not going to look for jobs because they are being developed in skills that by the time they are done, they will be employers of labor. My prayer today is Exploit 2018 shall produce billionaires from the house. Exploit 2018 shall produce men of skill, men who are intelligent, men who are going to stand before kings, men who shall lead in the sector of economy, putting their faith forward and holding the flags of their faith wherever they go. They know they are servants of God, and they know by the wisdom and the grace of God and skill of God they can lead Egypt. Joseph led Egypt. He didn't have to backslide. God doesn't have problem of money. God has problem of men's heart. God said himself he will give you power to get money. But you see, it's the heart that gets corrupted by money. It's not the money that corrupts you. It's your heart that gets corrupted. Now, so if you allow your heart to love God, money becomes a servant in your hand. And I declare that billions shall come to you. And they shall be servants in your hand. But I declare that your wisdom will be exploded. Your imagination will fly high. Your hand shall produce in the mighty name of Jesus. For all our speakers who are here, we welcome each one of you. We're expecting Mrs. Ndidi to be here. We're expecting Ben Akabweze to be here. He's sent in. He's got an official engagement in Abuja this morning and dashing from there to the airport, flying down straight for this program. Dr. Wale, you are here now. We welcome you from Liverpool. Your team is winning, and we thank God for every one of you. Ugo Bokwe, you are here. We welcome you. And our Deputy Director, Development Finance in Central Bank, Adebisi Adedeji, you are welcome. You come to see what God is doing through Exploit in Salem. And you will report back to your office that there are people to be supported. Now, we started Salem University on these premises. Not just a regular university, just like Salem is not a regular church. That you must raise people who are global leaders, strong in their faith. Because if we educate their intellect and don't educate their heart, they will be intellectual thieves. Strong in their faith. And intellectually empowered. Socially developed to change their world. So when they're on the campus, we don't call them students, we call them global leaders. And they're happy about that. You hear them, I'm a global leader, I'm a global leader. And when they leave the campus, we call them change agents. Because they are being released to go change their world. The Center for Entrepreneurship Study is a center in Lokoja campus. But we just acquired a 250-hectare land just by the border of Abuja, where it's no longer going to be a center, it will be a full-fledged college of entrepreneurship. Why? We need to empower Nigerians and our young people to get away from killing and maiming and robbing, to do something productive. From this Exploit conference, you are going to be one of the billionaires who have been prophesying. God bless you and thank you.
Powerful. Powerful. You know, you know why I'm so excited? We had an added sermon. I'm sure our daddy didn't plan for that, but he wanted to pour out his heart because that's where the nation is going. A nation that cannot sustain itself will not stand. A nation that is divided against itself will not stand. And things will not fall apart in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call on Mr. Adebisi Adedeji. He's going to be speaking on access to funding and CBN funding for SMEs. Deputy Director, Development Finance, Central Bank of Nigeria. A big round of applause for him. Let us celebrate him as he comes for his presentation. Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir. God bless you.
Our distinguished spiritual father and mother in the Lord, the Archbishop. Good morning, sir. To the Bishop, I thank you very much for this privilege of being here today. And the leadership of the church, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I say good morning to you all. It's really a honor and a privilege for me to be here today, ladies and gentlemen, because beyond presentation, this is actually a subject that is very, very close to my heart. I believe very fervently that the church has a strong role to play in the lives of membership of the church, which goes beyond just the spirituality. A few minutes ago, we went to look through the graduates of the skill acquisition and entrepreneurship training of the church. And I must tell you, ladies and gentlemen, not only was I very, very impressed, indeed, I was totally blown away. And I think the leadership of the church deserves a great round of applause for what they're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a study that was carried out recently which indicated that the population of Nigeria presently is in the range of about 198 million. Of this, about 70–75% are under the age of 35. And 50% of these people we're talking about are either unemployed or grossly underemployed. It is very, very clear that something very drastic and radical needs to be done. We need to empower these young people, and we need to make them useful to the society to which they belong. Some of you must have had instances where you have young graduates right here in Nigeria that after graduation, they will be home for 5–6 years doing absolutely nothing, under the pretext that they are waiting or searching for jobs. We really, really have to put a stop to this. That is why we have all these opportunities that are now, some of which we're going to talk about today, from the Central Bank of Nigeria. But indeed, it goes beyond the Central Bank. There are several organizations, the Bank of Industry, the Federal Ministry of Employment, and all the rest of them. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we owe ourselves a responsibility of going out to find out opportunities. Virtually all our young people that we have are online. But the truth is that 70–80% of them do totally unproductive things online. They're chatting, they're playing, they're sending jokes, but the most powerful purpose of this opportunity of being online is for opportunities. They don't search for these things. All these things, virtually everything we're talking about is available online. There are things you can search for and find and tap into. So, having said that, I have a very short presentation which covers the topic, subject of the theme of the program, which I believe is very apt. And that will be talking about the entrepreneurship opportunities available from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Of course, I'll start with the introduction, the basis for CBN Development Finance Intervention, CBN approaches to development finance, then the major goals of CBN interventions. We'll share and compare several country experience on MSME funding, the CBN intervention focus areas, the existing development finance schemes and programs as we currently have it in the Central Bank, and of course, challenges. The very first question we probably want to ask ourselves is, Why is the central bank involved in interventions? We all know that the primary or core function of the central bank is that of price and monetary stability. But the truth is that this cannot possibly be achieved without a sound and efficient financial system that will grant unhindered access to credits to the real sector. And that is why the central bank does not have a choice than to intervene in certain areas. The truth is, sectors of the economy like agriculture, manufacturing, SMEs, and most importantly, startups cannot possibly compete with other areas like oil and gas, or even maybe, what was that? I tried it wasn't working. It's working. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so, and then the central bank therefore has no other choice than to make, to grant access to credit to these critical sectors of the economy. So this chart shows an indication of the role of development finance, which is to identify the financial market gaps in the economy and try to act as a gap filler by channeling funds and credits into such sectors, and thereby correct the financial market failure in the flow of finance. Now, what are the objectives of the CBN-initiated schemes and programs? The very first of this is to create an enabling environment to do business. We all know that right now we have, to put it very mildly, a very hostile environment of doing business in Nigeria. We know there are several factors that are not available, but we are saying that in spite of all this, it is very, very possible to do business successfully. A minute ago, I talked about the population of Nigeria. This is to tell you that we have a willing and ready market, that virtually everything you can think of to produce, you have people that are going to consume it, which is a source of encouragement to you. Of course, the CBN wants to improve access to affordable and long-term funds, which is what we're talking about here, boost domestic output to increase level of exports and supply of forex. One of the studies that the central bank carried out recently indicated that 4 products, that is wheat, sugar, what were the other produce? Anyway, 4 produce, it will come to me. Take up about 1 trillion naira of imports annually into the country. 1 trillion naira. Rice, yes, rice is part of it. Every single year, 1 trillion naira. So this is part of why the central bank has found it very, very necessary to create an intervention and grant access to credits, not only to the farmers, but the entire value chain of production. I'm proud to say that right now, is it changing myself? That right now, as we speak, we have actually succeeded in some areas. By the end of last year, that is 2017, we've been able to drastically reduce the importation of rice by close to 80%. What this means is that by God willing, by the end or middle of 2019, Nigeria would not only be self-producing in terms of rice production in the country, but we will actually be exporting. We have created a lot of jobs by farmers going into cultivation of of rice. Also, to complement this, all the rice mills that used to be redundant, that had been abandoned for so many years, all of them have been totally reactivated. In fact, they are building new rice mills all over the place. The Lagos state government is about to commission a massive rice mill, even as we speak. And all of these developments are going on all across the country. Yeah. okay. So generally speaking, the mandates of the central bank can be classified into three categories. The traditional, which is the one we are all familiar with. That's the maintenance of monetary and price stability, issuance of legal tender currency, and of course, being the banker and financial advisor to the federal government and the lender of last resort. In addition to that, we have the regulatory role, which is the supervision of banks and other financial institutions to ensure a financial system stability. Now, the part for which we are here and we are discussing, which is the developmental part. This provides the complementary functions to support the real sector development and enhance the effectiveness of monetary policy in sectors such as poverty reduction, job creation, financial inclusion, agricultural value chain, power and aviation, diversification of the economy, and so forth, and so forth, and so on and so forth. And how do we go about this approach to developmental finance? The first is by the different programs and schemes of interventions that we have. In doing this, we have, in some instances, the central bank provides guarantees, rebates, and special interventions into specific areas. This is also done by policy and regulation, where we try to influence the credit enhancement mechanism into certain sectors of the economy. Of course, you have development finance institutions, some of which have been created. We all know of the NASAL, which is a recent creation of the central bank. This is part of the institutional development to empower and strengthen that sector of the economy. Capacity building. The central bank has been involved in training the management and staff of not only the deposit money banks, but also the microfinance banks in all areas to encourage them, particularly to grant credits to the critical sectors of the economy. There are two major purposes of the goals of the interventions. The first is the strengthening of the financial system through quantitative easing policy, which has been on for a while, in fact, since 2010. And of course, the direct support through deposit money banks to industry that has high job creation capacity and other vital economic agents. Now we look at some country experiences which we might possibly compare to ours. Indeed, like I said earlier, and like the Archbishop said, the role of SMEs in the development of any country cannot be overemphasized. Somebody, I think it was the MC, mentioned the role of Singapore and Malaysia a few minutes ago. From the figures here, you'll find that SMEs in Malaysia constitute 99.2% of the businesses in Malaysia. They are actually very dominant in the three sectors of manufacturing, services, and agriculture. In Bangladesh, SMEs are the major contributor for the growth of the Bangladesh economy. In 2014, they contributed as much as 25% of the GDP and 40% of the manufacturing output of the entire country. In the Philippines, SMEs contributed about 33% of the GDP and employs around 5.2% of the total workforce and accounts for 25% of total export revenue, and mostly in the manufacturing industries. South Africa, our neighbor, makes up, the SMEs make up about 91% of the formalized businesses and accounts for 34% of the entire GDP. Germany, as sophisticated as we all know it is, SMEs represent a whopping 99.95% of companies in Germany as of today, and employs 68% of the entire labor force and 37% of the corporate turnover of the country. In the UK, which was also mentioned earlier, MSMEs accounts for 99.9% of all private businesses, employing about 60% of private sector labor force and 47% of all private sector turnover. In the United States, businesses with less than 20 workers accounted for more than 97.9% of employer firms, 50% of private non-farm GDP, and 63% of net new jobs in the country. In China, SMEs contribute 60% of the industrial outputs and 80% of employment. The total number of SMEs in China are expected to grow steadily at an annual growth rate of 8%. The focal areas of interventions by the federal government include agriculture, manufacturing, MSMEs, and of course, infrastructure. This shows all the different areas that we'll be talking about. The first of this is the AgSMEs. I decided to talk about this first because that is like the most recent and the hottest right now. For those of us who keep up with the news are probably aware that a couple of days ago, Thursday in particular, the central bank governor commissioned the handing over of equipment and tools to several graduates of EDIs across the country. Even though this ran across the country, I'm very proud to tell you that about 75 to 80% of the beneficiaries of this initial intervention actually came from Lagos. Now, what is this AgriSMEs? AgriSMEs is actually an initiative of the Bankers Committee. That is the managing directors of all the deposit money banks in the country. And the agreement was that they're going to set aside 5% of profit after tax of each year as a fund for SMEs that people can access every year. As at the beginning of this year, we already had about 26 billion. That figure by May or June this year is going to rise to over 60 billion of fund that is ready for people to access. Indeed, the federal government, through the presidency, has mandated the Central Bank of Nigeria that every state in the country must provide at least 10,000 people to access this fund. For Lagos, because of its key positioning, Lagos on its role has to provide at least 20,000 beneficiaries. I have absolutely no doubt that this can be done very easily. I was speaking with, while we were going around, I was asking the managing director of Make Me whether they don't actually carry out training activities. Also, I spoke about the key role the churches have to play. Now, for the churches and all these individuals that have EDIs, that is Entrepreneurship Development Institutions, all they have to do is bring together all the graduates that they have trained, link them up with the Central Bank of Nigeria, and what we do is to provide the equipment and working capital that they might need to create their startups. In the last initiative that we had that I was talking about a few days ago, the House of Tara was one of the major beneficiaries. They had more than 300 beneficiaries. Faith Foundation was a beneficiary. Lagos Business School was a beneficiary. So all I'm trying to say is that these are opportunities that we can all take advantage of. The church itself, I've been told, is training lots and lots of people. Not only do we need to train them, we need to give them access to credit, to start up and to run their businesses. So like I was saying, this initiative is to support the federal government's efforts and policy measures for the promotion of agricultural businesses and small and medium enterprises as vehicles for employment generation and sustainable economic development. What are the core objectives of AgriSMEs? This is to improve access to affordable and sustainable finance by agribusiness and micro, small, and medium enterprises. create employment opportunities in Nigeria, and boost the managerial capacity of agribusiness and MSMEs to grow the enterprises into large corporate organizations and key employers of labor. Now, what is the mechanism for direct disbursement of this fund we are talking about? What we do essentially is that we try as much as possible to avoid giving cash to beneficiaries. What we do, like in the case of House of Terror, was that we provided all the graduates with the kits and equipment that they would need. And of course, where necessary, some working capital. There are quite a number of MSMEs too that have been provided with equipment, not cash. We buy the equipment that they would need to set up their businesses, which we hand off to them. The tenure of this facility goes up to 7 years. The interest rate remains 5% per annum. And the loan amount is a minimum of 100,000 and a maximum of 10 million. This 2 million here is the ceiling of the working capital alone. Now, what are the requirements? All you require to access this fund is your BVN, the bank verification number, the credit bureau registration. You need a registered phone number, a registered business name, and a tax identification number. That is all you need to access this. And of course, verification and certification of training by a viable institution. So the disbursement channels are the CBN, the deposit money banks, and microfinance banks. And what's the repayment structure? Of course, it's monthly repayments. There is an 18-month moratorium on the capital. And then you have a 6-month moratorium on the interest before you start repayment. And don't forget that this fund comes at 5% per annum. We also have what we call the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme, which has been around for quite a while, but this is basically for agriculture. For individuals who venture into agriculture, you'll be surprised the number of people in Lagos that are into fishery, that are into planting of vegetables, that are into poultry, and all what have you. Now, this fund has a minimum of 50 million and a ceiling of maximum, of 50 million and a minimum of 100,000 for people to access for agriculture. But the beauty of this guarantee scheme is that the central bank leaves to encourage deposit money bank to grant credit to this sector, gives a 75% guarantee on whatever default might come about as a result of giving credit to this sector. What this means simply is that for somebody who, for instance, is given a facility of, say, 1 million and is able to repay maybe 500,000, at the end of the day, if any amount is in default, the central bank will guarantee 75% of whatever amount is in default. Still under the ACGSF, there's what we call the interest drawback loan. And what this program, and what this effectively does is that individuals, of course, we know that the interest rate in Nigeria is generally very high. Now, this is left to market forces to determine. But for each and every beneficiary that accesses this facility and repays as at when due, the central bank grants a 40% rebate on the interest element such a person has repaid. And that is paid back to the beneficiary. So this encourages the beneficiaries to repay as at when due and encourages the banks to grant more credit to the sector. Of course, there are linkage groups which are generally formed to encourage people to save, inculcate the culture of savings and banking habits as a rule. We have what they call the trust fund model. The church also can take advantage of this And how that comes into play is that we have individuals, churches, NGOs, companies who put up a third-party fund. Then whoever wants to benefit from this fund, this church, for instance, in fact, a number of churches have been involved in this, the Baptist Church and a few other churches. They put up a fund for perhaps members of the church. You can specify the people you want to access this facility. And for them to access this facility, they put up 25% of whatever amount they want to access. And then the deposit money bank you're working with puts up 50%. Now, where we come in is that of the 50% the deposit money bank is putting up, we grant a 75% guarantee on that 50%, which tells you that invariably the exposure of the deposit money bank comes only to an insignificant 12.5%, which goes to a very long way to encourage the deposit money banks to grant credit to that sector also. We have the 200 billion commercial agricultural credit scheme. This is strictly for large-scale farms, and they've been benefiting from this over the years. I don't want to talk too much about that because that is not so much about SMEs. That is for the large-scale, really large-scale farmers. I spoke about the Nigeria Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, which is NASAL. This is now an autonomous unit. It has its board. It has, even though the governor of the central bank is the chairman, but it has its managing director and EDs. The 5 pillars of NASAL are basically that of risk-sharing facility, which is about 45 billion naira, insurance facility for agriculture, which is about 4.5 billion, technical assistance facility, 9 billion, agricultural bank rating scheme, which is to encourage deposit money banks to grant loans to the sector, and of course the bank incentive mechanism, which is about 15 billion. Now, I'll briefly talk about the Anchor Borrowers Program. A few minutes ago, we talked about how much progress we've made in that of rice production. But it's not only rice. This is going on in virtually every other sector of agriculture. In many parts of the country where people used to give out their land for people to hire and cultivate, nobody is giving out any land anymore. More and more people are actively engaged in commercial agriculture. The Kebbi State Governor was telling us a few weeks ago that usually when, at this time of the year, when politics is coming up, he summons the young people and they all troop to the governor's house and he has meetings with them. But the last time he summoned them, they couldn't come. They told him they were busy in their farms, that he had to reschedule. So things have changed. So in Lagos, we have the anchor borrowers in fishery, poultry, maize production, and we're just starting that of vegetables. In vegetables, we're looking at ugu in particular. What we do under the Anchor Borrowers Program is that we bring people who produce. Not only do we bring them up, we provide the best possible seeds, the best possible inputs they can use for their production to them. They start the production, they cultivate, and then we link them up with a processor and an off-taker who is going to take off all the produce at any time at a guaranteed price, irrespective of what happens in the market. You are sure that whatever you produce is going to be taken off by so company at a particular price. So you're not looking for anybody to buy your produce. You're not exposed to the risk of market crashing or anything. So that is also in play, and it has worked tremendously so far. That's the Anchor Borrowers Program. We have what we call the 200 billion naira SME restructuring and refinancing facility. This is strictly for that of SMEs that are in operation. A lot of SMEs have had to shut down because of the interest rates and loans that they are paying. So this facility is for them to refinance and to restructure such facilities and to be able to go back into doing active business. We have the SMEs Credit Guarantee Scheme, which is another 200 billion fund. It has an upper limit of access of 100 million naira. And what this does is to encourage deposit money banks to grant loan facilities to SMEs. Once they grant facilities to an SME under the scheme, the Central Bank of Nigeria guarantees up to 80% of the fund in case of default or non-repayment. We also have, in addition to that, we have this is a very well-known one too, the 220 billion Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Fund. A lot of people have been able to access this so far. The peculiarity of this is that 10% of this fund goes wholly for startups. 60% of it is channeled to women. It's only women that can access up to 60% of this fund. Many people will ask why that is so. But the truth is that, I'm happy you asked why. The truth is that over time, women have shown that they are more persistent in terms of repayments. Yeah. Not just in Nigeria, all over the world. That is a scientific fact. And more importantly, when you grant a woman a loan, it impacts more on the family than when you grant a man a loan. Can we give the women a round of applause, please? So, in addition to that, 2% of the fund is also set aside for the physically challenged people to be able to access credits. We also have what we call the Real Sector Support Facility. This is also for large-scale manufacturing and production. The loan limit is 10 billion for a single entity with the interest rate at 9% and all inclusive, and the CBN to earn 1% for it. Sorry, I forgot to mention that the MSME DF2, it has an upper limit of loan of 9%. The CBN gives the money to financial institutions at 2%, but they can give it out at a maximum of 9%. It could be anything in between, but nothing beyond 9%. So I'm trying to hurry up now because time is against me. In one of the biggest challenges we found in different parts of the country is that for young graduates, like the Archbishop mentioned, you find that they lack training in entrepreneurship. If you ask any of the deposit money banks, you'll be shocked at the kind of business plans and proposals that individuals bring. As a result of this, we found that most Nigerian institutions don't have facilities to train for entrepreneurship development, which is why I was so overwhelmed and impressed when the Archbishop mentioned that in the Salem University, they have an entire college that is going to be dedicated to teaching entrepreneurship development. So what the central bank has done by way of this is to set up EDCs in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, where we train people in all areas. We train fresh graduates. We've trained managing directors of their own companies on how to manage businesses, and eventually we link them up with financial institutions that will grant them credits under the scheme. Another very important thing is the National Collateral Registry. This is a new initiative, even though right now as we speak, we have registered over, I think, 250,000 financial statements. What this does basically is to open a totally new horizon for people to access credits. And how does this happen? Before now, in Nigeria, nobody could use movable assets as tangible collaterals to access loans. But now that has changed. What are we talking about? We're saying women, for instance, can use their jewelries. Professionals, a photographer can use his camera as collateral to access a loan. A vulcanizer can use his equipment as collateral to access a loan. Accessing this loan does not mean that you're going to give up your equipment. All it means is that it's going to be registered. So anybody who wants to buy or transact business with you, all they have to do is to check whether there's any encumbrance, whatever, on that equipment before they go ahead and buy it. So what I'm saying is that as even your handset, your phone, you can actually use it as a collateral to access a facility under the National Collateral Registry, which is up and running. We've been training all the microfinance institutions. We've trained more than 500 banks and staff on how to use this National Collateral Registry. Of course, we have the benefits of this here: enable businesses to leverage the greatest part of it, make asset diversification possible, provide banks with profitable lending, improve the liquidity assets, and all that. Also, another very important thing is what we call the Youth Entrepreneurship Development Program. This is primarily put up for the young people. And by this, what are we saying? We're saying young graduates in the country have a window of accessing credits at a single-digit interest rate. All you require for this is your certificates, NYSC discharge certificates, a bank account, BVN number, young people to build up entrepreneurship, just like we said earlier. So you might also, as a church, want to take advantage of this scheme. We have the export rediscounting and refinancing facility. This is for people who are looking into the sector, into exports. Lots and lots of people are exporting goods out of the country now, legitimately. Like a few minutes ago, I talked about us looking into the production of ugu. You'll be shocked that most of the ugu they're producing is actually being exported. I don't know what they do with it. Maybe it's for consumption, but they export it, but the market is there for it. So, which is a very good thing. So we provide this facility to encourage those who want to export materials. What we are trying to do essentially is to discourage, we want to build up the entire value chain. We're moving away from the situation where Nigeria will produce cocoa and export cocoa seedlings. Nigeria will produce rice and export rice paddy. Whatever we produce, we want to process. And what we want to export is the finished product and not the raw materials anymore. So there's a special fund, a 50 billion facility, which was essentially for the textile sector. We all know what has happened in the textile sector in Nigeria over the past decade. And what this does is to give our facility to under a single-digit interest rate for companies that have been having challenges. They can access this to refinance their loans, restructure it, and be able to run their businesses under the textile industry. Now, generally speaking, what are the challenges that we have faced as a central bank for development finance? Of course, the primary one we've had is that of political pressure. I don't know whether to call it political pressure or political interference, because more often than not, you find that many state governments want to access some of this fund for their people to benefit. We don't have any problems with that. The challenge is that it's twofold. One, when the government gives out credit to people they believe is a part of the national cake. That is one, and that they have no business repaying it. And two, which is perhaps even more important, is that there's a tendency for state governments to give such facilities only to their supporters, which is why it's a major challenge for the central bank, to the political aspect of it. Then the funding appetite of the bank, we want to encourage the deposit money bank to give loans to certain sectors of the economy to encourage production. Lack of synergy among relevant institutions, we've talked about that. The impact on the CBN balance sheet is a major challenge also. Then sustainability of interventions. Most of these interventions I've talked about are not open-ended. They're not going to run forever. It runs for a time frame. And all we have to do is to take advantage of these things while it's up and running. There's always an exit strategy for each and every one of it. And then the impact of interventions on the national growth of, and development is always being examined. Taking a quick look at some of the things we have achieved so far. Under the 200 billion SME restructuring refinancing facility, about 381.99 billion was disbursed to 604 projects and contributed to the creation of more than 89,860 direct jobs. Under the Small and Medium Enterprises Credit Scheme, the SMECS, 88 projects valued at 4.251 billion in favor of 9 financial institutions have been granted. Under the 220 million Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Fund, 303 projects funded by the PFIs valued at 129 billion simulated the creation of 139,156 direct jobs. The Youth Empowerment Scheme we spoke about already. I've had more than 11,000 applications received, and about half of that right now have been able to access this facility. Under the 300 billion Real Sector Support Fund, more than 57 billion has been disbursed. The 50 billion Textile Intervention Facility, more than half of it also has been disbursed. The 50 billion Exports Stimulation Facility, about 20 billion has been disbursed so far. So with this, if you look at the interventions that we have had so far, and the amount disbursed, and the number of beneficiaries, for the Commercial Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme, direct jobs is over 1 million, over 1,152,260. For the SME refinancing and restructuring, we have direct employment increased from a pre-intervention average of 73,000 to 89,000 jobs. And under the MSME Development Fund, we have more than 139,156 jobs created. So also under the ACGSF, we've disbursed over 100 billion and created a number of beneficiaries are over 1 million, and direct jobs created is over 5 million over the years. Also, under the Anchor Borrowers Program, which we talked about earlier, over 30 billion has now been disbursed. The number of beneficiaries are over 129,709 smallholder farmers, and more than 500,000 direct jobs has been created under the scheme. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can see from all this that there are loads and loads of opportunities that we need to take advantage of. The important thing is that we shouldn't sit back and fold our arms and hope for the best. We don't sit down and pray and fast. We need to work. We need to make efforts to make things happen among Christians in the country. So there has indeed been a remarkable progress in the implementation of policies to improve access to finance by MSMEs. The bank will continue to provide enabling environments for the evolution of innovative financial tools to boost access to finance by the MSMEs. And the state governments, like we said earlier, must implement investment-friendly policies and ensure security of lives and property. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for listening.
Can we clap better than this? If your life has been enriched this afternoon, just put your hands together for the Lord. We'd like to thank the facilitator, the doctor from CBN, for doing a wonderful job this afternoon. And I'm very much sure that somehow you have a takeaway that you're taking out from this section. So we must go out of this place to ensure that we begin to make things work. You know, you have prayed, you have believed God. This is the time to work. This is the time to think. This is the time for us to deepen our capacity. And I'm sure by the time we do that, the grace that is at work in our house will begin to work for us. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. We're going to have another section. We're going to have a plenary section when we're going to ask questions. Then all of them will talk to us. You know, can we celebrate Mama and Papa as they just take their leave? So the program will run. So we'll have a plenary section when all of them will sit on this high table. Okay. So Archbishop is not going, our Papa is coming back. I don't have. So please, without wasting much of our time, I would like to bring somebody else to talk to us. You know, he's such an iconic and a phenomenal person. You know, he is a symbol of the indomitable Nigerian spirit, an entrepreneur to the core, you know, who started a business in 1999. Selling original phones and mobile devices. Today, you know, he has grown to become a phenomenal catalytic and a category A business leader in the telecom industry. And I'm sure by the time he comes up to share his experience with us, because he's actually coming from the trenches, he has a lot of experience. He has grown a business to become a franchise business, not just selling mobile devices. He has developed a franchise business model. And I'm sure by the time he comes, you'll be able to gain a whole lot from his wealth of transformative business experience that he has put into place to develop slot businesses to become a category A business in Nigeria, which everybody knows about it. He is an award winner in 2009 Nigerian National Integrity Award. He has won a lot of awards. 2010, he won Most Outstanding ICT and Telecom Entrepreneur. In 2013 and from 2011 to 2013, he also won the Nigerian Telecom Dealer of the Year. Also in 2012, he won Mobile Phone Dealer of the Year. In 2012, he also won Nokia Award for Top Wholesaler in Nigeria. And also in 2013, he also won the Most Outstanding Telecom and IT Dealer of the Year. So you can see the man that is coming to us has developed such an iconic, has developed such a category A business, who is a clear business winner that has reconstructed the way businesses is done as far as ICT and telecom businesses is concerned. Please, will you join me to welcome to a podium to talk to us no other person than Mr. Emmanuel Nnamdi Ezigbo. Sir, please, sir. You're welcome, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Let me just make that correction. My name is Nnamdi Ezigbo. All right, thank you very much. And unfortunately, the last speaker has left. Thanks to him, at DBC, that was a wonderful one, very insightful. Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be here. I also want to salute the leadership of this ministry. It's been wonderful. It's been very, very wonderful. The Archbishop and his lovely wife, the Bishop of the Provincial Bishop, wonderful, wonderful. So I salute the leadership of this ministry. I salute everyone who has worked together to promote this ministry. And thank you very much for my friend Ken, who worked very hard to make sure that I attend this event. Thank you very much. All right, I'm so passionate about this topic, doing exploits, and I'm also very passionate about anything that has to do with the SMEs. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship because that is the only way we can create wealth in our society. Donation, philanthropy cannot create wealth in the society because donation, philanthropy, CSRO are just things that happens once in a while. They are not sustainable. The only magic is business, because business comes with what they call profit. Please look for someone and say, profit is the magic. Look for another person and say, profit is the magic. All right, profit is the smallest component when you look at the entire component. All right, you have the revenue, you have cost of goods sold, you have gross profit, you have expenses, and all those stuffs. The least one is profit, and that profit is the magic. It is that profit that will help you pay tax. It's from that profit that you can pay bills. It's from that profit you can actually make a donation to help the church. And so I want to start by saying that the most important business is kingdom business. The most important business is what? It's kingdom business. And so God blesses us for three purposes. One, for kingdom business. Two, for society, for our society. And three, for our personal consumption. So God wants us to do well, impact our society, and also impact the ministry, which is the kingdom business, because we need money for this business. I mean, for kingdom business. Does that make sense? Very correct. All right, now, let's even look at it from this point. The government is not actually in the business of creating jobs. It will interest you to know that 70% of jobs created in Nigeria is being created by the private sector. 48.5% of that 70% is being created by the micro, small, medium enterprises. But that's not the point. The point is, are this sector or these sectors, are they making profit? 80% of Nigerian SMEs are not making profit. I'll repeat. 80% of businesses owned by SMEs or small, medium-scale enterprises, they are not profitable. The question is, why are they not profitable? The reason is because they have not seen business as a profession. They have not seen business as what? As a profession. They see business as a mere way of raising capital, mere way of generating profit, mere way of paying bills and all that. So when you give somebody 10 million naira, the next thing that gets into his head is, what business am I going to do? So they see business as something that has to do with capital. Once you have capital, you are qualified to do business. That is not correct. Capital is the least thing you require to do business. In fact, it's the last thing that you need if you want to start your business. And so it has become very, very important that the typical Nigerian businessman does not understand that business is a profession. And every profession requires a reasonable period of training. Let's look at the military profession. Of course, you need to be trained to become a military man, to become a soldier. Let's look at engineering. Of course, you need to be trained to become an engineer. What about the medical profession? Of course, you need to be trained to become a medical doctor. Does that make sense? And so for you to become a businessman, you need to be properly trained to become a businessman or a businesswoman. And so the reason why so many people today go to the bank, get money, and they are unable to repay or service their loan or service their debt is because they have not mastered the art of generating profit from their operation. They have not mastered the art of business. Business is an art. And so we need to understand that you need to, first of all, acquire the right knowledge, the necessary competence that aligns with the kind of business you have chosen to do. You can't just wake up and say, I want to do this kind of business without getting proper training. So you need competence. So what do we really need to start a business? We need to get this from the very grassroots. Of course, business can be broken down into 3 components. I mean, in terms of stages. The first stage of doing the business is called the start-up. Start-up. At this level, you need a whole lot of planning. That's where you need to identify need, identify the kind of business that you want to do, identify how much money you need to raise, how you intend to raise that money, all right? Are you going to be creating value? What kind of value are you going to be creating? Are you going to be unique in your value creation? This is called start-up stage. This is the most important period or most important stage of starting a business. So you require a whole lot of planning. In most cases, you require you need to get a consultant to help you to design your strategic plans. And then your business plan will also help you to guide you. All right. However, I'm not saying that business plan is the only way. All right. There's so many people with business plan. And at the end of the day, the business, eventually might not succeed. Now, but you need planning at that first stage. Now, the second stage of business is called the strengthening stage. Strengthening stage. Now, this is the period where you need to be proactive and productive. Strengthening stage. All right? And so the third stage is called the security stage. This is where profit and proceeds comes out of the business. And so you need to be very, very patient to go through these processes, all right, or these stages, not for you to jump from one stage to the other. And this is very, very common in Nigeria. So I'm going to be sharing with you, how to position your business, particularly some opportunities in the telecoms industry. So what do we need to start a business? We need some components. One, like I said earlier, is that you need to identify need. What need do you intend to fill? What space do you intend to fill? And that's the what question. All right, there's a what question, there's a why question, and there's a how question. So what business do you intend to do? How do you intend to do that business? Why do you want to play in this business at this time? For those of you who are scared of doing business and who are waiting for a very favorable period, you are just wasting your time. Because no period is most favorable to start a business. In fact, the best time to start your business is now. Tell somebody that the best time to start a business is now. All right. So if you're looking for a very favorable period, you won't see that. All right. That might not happen. So you need some company, like I said. The first one is to identify need. And then the next thing is you need to acquire competence. That's where knowledge comes in. We're very familiar with this word knowledge. All right? Let's look at it from that point. We are Christians. All right? If you look at Proverbs 24, verse 3 to 4, the Bible talked about wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. All right? Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowledge is relevant, related information. Relevant, related information. So if you need knowledge about your business, you need to get the right kind of knowledge. So you might be knowledgeable about football, about health, but you might not be knowledgeable about the telecoms business. So you need to go out, pay money or whatever it is, get that information, get that training, acquire that knowledge. Because knowledge is relevant, related information. And then what is understanding? Understanding is the comprehension of that relevant, related information. The understanding of that relevant, related information. And then what is wisdom? Wisdom is the application of that understanding of the relevant, related information. Does that make sense? All right, this is very necessary because we are Christians and we should understand these things. So if you don't have knowledge about the business you want to do, you are just wasting your time. In fact, you are just wasting that money. And this is a very, very serious issue. Now, once you've been able to identify the business you want to do and you've acquired the right competence or the right knowledge or the right training, the next thing is, what strategy do you intend to put in place? What strategy? What would make you different? Because you have to be uniquely different to be able to survive in a very competitive landscape. You have to be different, all right? So what value are you bringing to the consumers? So that's what strategy does for you, all right? So strategy is just asking the question, how? The how, all right? And then after strategy, the next one is capability. Capability for me is the addition of ability and capacity. Most of us are pursuing businesses that we don't have capacity for. A typical example, a personal one, is a 6-foot-tall guy cannot, a 4-foot-tall guy cannot play basketball like a 6-foot-tall man. Does that make sense? Now, why is a 6-foot-tall guy a better basketballer, or would become a better basketballer? Because he has the capacity to play basketball by virtue of his height. So do not pursue businesses that you don't have capacity for. So understand whether you have capacity for that kind of business. All right. A stammerer might not have capacity to become a good broadcaster. Does that make sense? All right. So just trying to put this in perspective, what capacity is all about. Now, if you have that capacity, you've been able to identify the capacity, you also need ability. Now, what is ability here? Ability is how you intend to take advantage of your capacity. A simple example. If this hall has capacity for 1,000 people, somebody with the right ability about event management can design this hall to the point where the hall can take up to 1,500 people. Does that make sense? So you need ability to be able to bring capacity to the optimized position. You need ability to be able to optimize capacity. I'm sure I'm making sense. I'm sure this is all right. So just to make this clearer for you, all right? So you need capability as one of the things you need to consider when you're starting a business, or if you want to grow a business and you also want to run a business that will become sustainable. All right? And then you need expertise. As you run your business, you need to continue to acquire the right skills, the right expertise. You can't wait. You can't assume that, oh, I have arrived, I am there. No, it's a continuous thing. It's a process. And so you need expertise. There are 3 major forms of expertise required for business. The first one is called operational expertise. And that is the common one. That's the one you see with guys, people who own their own small shops, who have their own small businesses, and all they do is, use that small space, they make money, and they pay their bills, but they can't scale. They can't scale because they only understand operation expertise, or they only have operational expertise. So that skill is a very common skill you find. The guys that sell spare parts, they have operational expertise because they understand how to sell spare parts. They know where to buy the spare parts. They know how to set up the business, design their local stores, and make profit. That is operational expertise. A typical woman who sells rice at Daleko Market has operational expertise. But operational expertise is not enough to scale. So the guy is doing well. He's just self-employed. He is not impacting on the society. And so you need beyond operational expertise. The next one is called managerial expertise. Managerial expertise is the expertise that you require, or the skill that you need, that can help you optimize your business. Like if you one small shop for 10 years, 20 years, though you are making money, though you have 2 guys that work with you, but you can't expand, you can't scale. and you can't actually impact on the society. You are just a self-employed man. We are not looking for self-employed people. We are looking for business people. We are looking for entrepreneurs, people who can become change agents, and that's what matters. Now, the third form of expertise is called organizational expertise. This is the kind of expertise that you need to have if you must manage people, manage resources, and grow your business bigger than the regular businessman around you. All right, so most businesses, even the ministry, they need this kind of expertise. All right, so you need that because you need to also retain talents. As people come, you need to retain them. How do you retain them if you don't understand organizational expertise? And so this is the kind of skill that every businessman should possess. And if you have this kind of skills, then you're ready to do business. Because the business landscape, particularly in Nigeria, is never attractive. But you know what? A developing country has this kind of characteristics. All right? What do you find in a country like Nigeria? Most of industries are not structured. All right? Government policies are not favorable. But in the midst of all this crisis, entrepreneurs find opportunities. Does that make sense? All right. So what do we need to actually position our business, particularly in this time and age? What do we need? First of all, like I said, we need to create a value. We need to be different. We need to understand the people, understand their behavior, so as to be able to produce the right products and services that will meet their needs. Most times, we create overvalue. Most times, we don't create the right kind of value. For example, somebody who wants to build a hotel in a place like Agege, you don't need to build a 5-star hotel. You need to build a very standard hotel where a room or a night will cost just 10,000 naira or 5,000 naira. When you do that, you are creating value. If you build a Sheraton kind of hotel in a place like Agege or Abulegba, where a room will cost 300,000 a night, beautiful environment, quality service, quality products, what happened? You are producing overvalue. You are not creating the right kind of value. And this is what happens in most kind of businesses today in Nigeria. People, in most cases, do not care to find out what the consumers actually want. And I think this is the best way to actually create value. So understand the consumers, understand their behavior, understand their purchasing power, understand what they like and what they won't like. Understand when their taste is about to change and when the taste is changing. This is very, very important. And if we can understand these basic things, we would be able to position our business in such a way that will meet the need of the consumers. All right, so if we also want to be competitive, we need to be innovative. Thank goodness that we now have the internet. The internet is one tool that can help you create a more competitive environment. With the internet, with IT itself, you can actually become more competitive, because with IT, you can actually reduce your cost of doing business. You can achieve efficiency, and you can achieve speed. And this is what value proposition is all about. What are the pitfalls you should avoid? Avoid spending your revenue as if it's your profit. Most of us are very familiar with this. Revenue is vanity. The only sanity is what? Profit. Revenue is vanity. When it comes to business, the only sanity is profit. You must be able to provide or prepare your profit and loss analysis on a monthly basis. You must know how much your business is producing in terms of profit. And you must be disciplined enough to spend within your profit limits. Do not see your revenue as something that is available for you to spend. Most of you, when you check your account balance, you see 3 million naira. It means that you can spend up to 2.9 million naira, right? Does that make sense? When you see 3 million naira in your account as a businessman, that means that you can spend up to 2.9 million naira because that's your money. All right? But is that the right thing to do? Good. So you should be able to separate the business from you as a person. And so, as the owner of the business, the MD, the CEO, whatever name you call yourself, the president, group managing director, you should be able to place yourself on salary. The temptation to spend money in Nigeria is very, very high. Everyday expenditure is going up. Income is not going up in line with the speed of the growth of expenditure. And so the temptation is very, very high. All right? Every day, some things are quite unavoidable. For example, if your mother-in-law calls you and says, oh, she needs to change her roof is leaking. For God's sake, won't you do that? All right, so that's very tempting. So the point is, you have to be very, very disciplined if you must stay in business, particularly this period. All right, for me, this is more of a period that is unpredictable. The election period is going to come with a lot of changes. All right, so we need to be smart. All right, Archbishop said thinking smart and not just hard work. All right, so of course we know that money flows in the direction of value. And then how does money flow? Money flows when there's exchange of energy. That's the old model. Money flows where there is exchange of skills. That's new model. Money flows where there is exchange of knowledge. All right, so you pay for skills. You pay for knowledge. You also pay for hard work, all right? But like I said, the time and the period of factories and industries, they're gradually leaving the space. All right? This is more of a knowledge-based economy. All right? I mean, this period. So it's more about knowledge. It's all about skills, not necessarily about factories or industries. The Facebook of this world, where is this factory? Google, where is the Google's factory? WhatsApp, where is the factory? All right? So this is the period of knowledge. It's all about knowledge. So your ability to actually solve problems will actually earn you money. All right, so the pitfall, like I said, is unending. There's so many things we have to look at. All right? You need to get sound knowledge of the business. You need to be disciplined financially. You also need to get the right kind of people. Try to avoid hiring your family members and your relatives. This is a very big temptation. All right? Why would you, of course, it's logical. Why would you go and hire somebody from River State when you have your cousins who also went to school? All right? So try to avoid that because you won't be able to fire your cousin. You won't be able to fire your brother-in-law. You won't be able to fire your sister-in-law. If you do that, what will happen to the marriage? There will be a crack on the wall. All right? So these are pitfalls. So, but you need to actually communicate this to your wife and convince her why you shouldn't hire a family member. All right? This is very, very important. All right. So pitfall, the things that we need to understand, things that we should avoid in order to position ourselves and then for us to continue to do business and make profit. And I'm sure most of you want to know my story and how I've been able to survive the Nigerian business environment for 20 years. And so I think that is very, very special. And I thought this is supposed to be the best time to clap. Thank you very much. Now, before I go into that, let me just share with you my strategy. All right, I call that the SLOT strategy, which is obviously an entrepreneurial principles, where the SLOT is an acronym, and each of the letters actually stand for one of the entrepreneurial principles. SLOT, all right, where S stands for solution. So for you to do business and succeed, you must be a solution provider. L, learning to lead. All right, for you to do business and succeed and be competitive, you must continue to learn in order to become a leader. Entrepreneurs are leaders. All right, O, opportunity. You must be sensitive to opportunities. They are everywhere. They are everywhere. And T, technology. You must see technology as a culture. You must use technology to drive your business. All right, so most people start business for different reasons. All right, some, they take their time, you know, they save money and say, oh, when I'm in 10 years' time, I'm going to start my own business. So they take their time, they plan, they do all that. Some people start their own business when they lose their jobs. That's very common, right? Yeah, when you lose your job and you're trying to get another job and you just can't find that kind of job, you know. So this time, you won't be wearing tie, you'll be wearing T-shirts. All right? You know, when you have a well-paid job, you know, every morning you dress so cool and you enjoy wages, all right? So wages is not profit. Which one is better? Profit is better. All right, but for those whose salaries are like 7 digits, 8 digits, wow. I don't have any comment. All right, so in my own case, I started business. It was born out of necessity. All right, I graduated, served, which is very normal, very traditional here in Nigeria. And then I spent 2 years looking for the kind of job I wanted. So I studied engineering with a good result, but my plan was to get a job in any of these oil companies and obviously earn 6 digits or 7 digit salary, which was very, very traditional. Because while you are in school in Nigeria, your mind is just telling you, you know what, when you get out of school, you're going to get this kind of job, you're going to get that kind of job. And we kind of envy people who actually had such kind of jobs then. And this is also very, very much in the system. And so I waited 2 years of my life. In fact, I wasted 3 years because the NYC year is also a waste of time. But that is a discussion for another day. All right, I'm not trying to be political here. All right, so I wasted 3 years of my life trying to get a job. All right, and those 3 years were very, very memorable for me. Also, at the end of that second year, like I said, it dawned on me that the jobs were not there. Particularly the kind of jobs I had wanted to, to take. And so I tried to now do something on my own. And this is what actually gave rise to some of the things I've been talking about since. So what I did was to create my own landscape, to create my own job. All right? Now the question I asked myself then was, what do you have to offer? What do you have to create value? All right? So you just can't say, I want to do business, particularly when you don't have money. People say startup capital, startup capital. Startup capital is very necessary if you want to start the business of buying and selling. Startup capital is not necessary if you are in the business of service delivery. And so what do you need in the industry of service delivery? You need knowledge, you need skills, and that's what consumers want. All right, so what I did was to spend 6 months to work as an apprentice in a computer engineering company. No salary. The whole idea was to acquire that skill to become a computer engineer. And because I was passionate about acquisition or acquiring that skill, I became a very good computer engineer. And to be very modest, most of the engineers you see today in Ikeja, in Lagos, were people who passed through me. Because later, we also set up a training school, an engineering training school, to train more and so many graduates. And so that was how I started. So after the 6 months training, I became very good. And because I was still in that company, interestingly, it was owned by my friend, all the customers, all the companies wanted my service. Now, what did I do differently? For those who are, for the engineers here, the technicians, and those who are providing services, I want you to understand this. Consumers want to know how sincere you are. Consumers are interested in companies that has reputation. All right? So if your company is not authentic, if your company does not have reputation, consumers will obviously know. It's a matter of time. And when they do, they run away. So I was able to demonstrate that. I was able to demonstrate integrity. And so how did I do that? If your computer has a problem, and the problem of your computer is the motherboard, for those of you who don't understand what that means, motherboard is a panel, all right? So if your computer has a problem, and the problem is the motherboard, I will tell you that your computer has a problem of motherboard, and the cost of the motherboard is 20,000 naira, because I don't sell motherboard. This is the cost of the motherboard. But the cost of fixing this motherboard and fixing your computer is 2,000 naira. So what would the consumer now negotiate? It would negotiate my service charge. All right? Now, what happened in most cases? Consumers are being deceived. They will tell the consumer that your problem of your computer is the motherboard. Meanwhile, the problem is just a cooling fan that will cost 300 naira or 500 naira. So because the consumer is novice, the consumer is not knowledgeable about what you're doing with this computer. Just like a plumber, all right? You don't know what he's going to do in your house, all right? So as far as the consumer is concerned, this guy has the training, the competence to fix my computer. And so they pay out of ignorance. But in my own case, I was different, because I was even happy that I could fix computer in the first place. So that was even the driving, that was the passion, and that was the driving force. And so, not too long, all right, my popularity grew. So everybody that comes around will say, I want Nnamdi to fix my computer. I want Nnamdi to fix my computer. And then it became something of envy, and my friend, who was the owner of the computer company then, asked me to leave. Because this guy has come to take all his customers. This Igbo boy has come to take all my customers. I'm sure he's using charm. So he thought I was using charm, because I was actually, drawing all the customers to myself. So that was how I left. And something else that also helped me is relationship. Relationship, all right? Relationship is very important, and that's, for me, a capital as well, all right? It's not necessarily financial capital. Relationship is also a capital. And so I was able, because I had relationship with customers and friends and all that, I had also built that integrity thing. So I was able to leverage on my network to start my own business. And so if you are talking about startup capital, I will ask you a simple question. How many friends do you have? How many people do you have in your family? Do you know that if you meet 50 people and each of them gives you 20,000 naira, that is 1 million naira? Most of you, when you lose your loved ones, particularly our aged parents, we look at our network and we call our friends and we raise money. Is it not so? So why do you not find it difficult to raise money to start a business that will impact on your family, impact on the society? So if you're looking for how to raise capital to start your business, you've not started, all right? You can easily leverage on your network. So that's what I did, and that was how I started. Now, learning points for me. 1, like I said, integrity. 2, be sensitive to opportunity. Because when GSM came, I started business in 1998. So when GSM came in 2001, I was able to see opportunities, all right, in the new industry, which is the telecoms industry. So leverage on government policies. Look at government policy. Be sensitive to government policies and be sensitive to opportunities. Again, be courageous. Business, particularly in Nigeria, is not for the feeble-minded. Be courageous. Competence is what consumers pay for, because competence will produce value, and value will produce naira and kobo. Be optimistic, all right? Be optimistic. It doesn't matter what you are seeing with your eyes. It doesn't matter what you are hearing with your ears. Just be optimistic. And finally, there is a God factor. There is a God factor. The Holy Spirit does not give money. The Holy Spirit gives revelation. Revelation would become useless if you don't take a decision on what to do with the revelation. Opportunities in the telecom space. There are enormous opportunities in the telecom space, particularly in Nigeria. I'll give a very simple example. I understand my time is very short, and so I'm running up. In less than 2-3 minutes, I'll be done. All right, so opportunities in the telecom space. If you look at the telecom stores, for example, let's even look at the value chain. Within the telecoms industry, we have the manufacturing arm. The value chain for the manufacturing arm is from manufacturing to the distributor, from distributor to the retail store, and then from the retail store, you find the franchise stores as well. All right? So you can actually become a franchisee in one of the telecoms company. For example, Slot, we run a very robust franchise business, which is very competitive. All right, so that's on the device side. And then on the telcos, the likes of the MTN, the Airtel, and all that, there are a lot of opportunities there as well. Most of the business they do, most of their arms of businesses are outsourced. For example, the telecom masks you see, they are being managed by people. They are being managed by people, managed by companies, and that is a wonderful opportunity. The retail stores you also see, most of the MTN stores you see, they are franchise stores. They are not owned by MTN. They are not managed by MTN. So you can as well manage that and make money from that. The call center, when you call MTN, somebody picks up the call. They are managed by companies. They are not owned by the companies. They are not owned by the telecoms companies. So you can manage that, and that's also a huge opportunity. What about training? What about the procurement itself, the procurement department? There are a lot of opportunities within the entire value chain. Most companies these days outsource their operations. All right? However, they try not to outsource their core operation, but they outsource most of their operations. This is very important. Let's even look at the digital world. That's very familiar. All right? The online store is becoming a very, very interesting way to go. Today, people make so much money online. All right? Those who sell products online. What about those who sell the apps? All right? So you can do so much within that space. Somebody want to ask a question like, but I'm not creative. I'm not innovative, so how can I do that? Entrepreneurs are not necessarily creative people. There are people who know what consumers want, and there are people who know who they can get to design or produce what consumers want. I guess you didn't get that. You don't need to be creative. You don't need to be innovative to solve problems. All you need is to think out what you actually want. Think and know what consumers actually need. And also find out who you can collaborate with to solve that problem. Most businesses today were not produced or started or created by one person. There's always room for collaboration. The Microsoft of this world, look at it, collaboration. All of them, the Facebook of this world, yes, collaboration. So look for the right people to work with. But the first thing is think it through. What is the idea? What does consumer want? All right? If you understand what consumers want, look for the right people or the right person that can help you bring this to life. This is very important. And now, why are we concerned about creating opportunities? We are creating opportunities because we want to, if we can change Nigeria, is when we solve our Nigerian problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful time. Can we just put our hands together again? Just clap more. If you have been enriched this afternoon, please, I hope we are noting our questions down. During the During the discussion program, we'll have opportunity to take on a lot of questions. It's been a wonderful time. I'm sure you are tightening your seatbelt. We're gearing up to the next level. Every section is unique. Every section is phenomenal. Every section will deepen your insight and expand your capacity and your capability to know what to do to connect to the next level. Praise the Lord. I'm going to introduce the next speaker to us. She's the co-founder of an agribusiness advisory and private equity firm, Sahel Capital, and serves as the director of the consulting and advisory services. She has 21 years of experience in international and development business management, working with multinational firms, the public sector, and international firms, international organizations. Through her work with Sahel Capital, she has shaped agriculture strategy and policy in West Africa for a range of private sector, public sector, and development agency clients in Ghana, Liberia, Nigeria, Senegal, and Togo. Ndidi was recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum and received a national honor. A member of the Federal Republic from the Nigerian government. She was also listed as one of the 20 youngest Power African women by Forbes. Ndidi serves on numerous international and local boards, including Nestle Nigerian PLC, Nigerian Breweries, Global Ethics Net, Gold Drink Consumer Product Limited, Indian and Royal DSM Sustainability Board, Netherlands. She is the author of Social Innovation in Africa, a practical guide for scaling impact, published by Routledge in 2016. It's my singular privilege, please. Can you join me as we welcome to the podium Mrs. Ndidi Okonkwo Wuneli, MFR. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Please have a seat. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for this kind invitation. Thank you to the leadership of the church for inviting me back again. I count it a privilege and an honor to be here twice in 2 years. I was also here for Ken's baby dedication, so it's actually 3 times. I'm going to have to become a Salem Associates member or something like that. Well, when Ken Okpara says you have to come, you cancel everything and come. So you have a treasure in this young man, Mr. Ken Okpara. He's not only working in the church, he's working in the marketplace. I'll give a very short presentation because most of you were here last year and you already heard the story. So I'll try to shed more light and provide some more insights. It's also a privilege to go after my brother, Mr. Ezigbo, who is doing wonderful things and making us very proud. I'm a slot customer. And if you're not a slot customer, become one today. I go there to fix my phone, to buy new phones, and they are very reliable. And I always tell them, if you don't do a good job, I have his number. So it helps to know the MD and the founder of the company. So I've been asked to speak about the agriculture revolution. And like the representative from CBN says, there's so much going on in the agriculture space. It's one of the most exciting spaces right now in Nigeria. And you don't have to be knowledgeable about the agriculture space to play in this space. I didn't study agriculture. I didn't study anything related to food and technology, but God opened my eyes to see the opportunity. Like he said, discernment. If God calls you, you say what? Here I am, send me. And that was exactly what my husband and I decided to do in this space. And so, as you know, we started a food company called Ace Foods. I'll talk more about that. We also started a company called Sahel. And Sahel is now 2 companies. I run the consulting company called Sahel Consulting Agriculture and Nutrition. And my husband runs Sahel Capital Agribusiness Managers. They manage FAFIN, which is the fund for financing agriculture. It's different from the CBN funds because they're a private equity fund. And for those who know private equity, it's different. It's not a loan. People come in and they take a percentage share of your business. They sit on your board and they help you grow your business. When they're ready or you're ready for them to go or they're ready to go, you can take your business back. So this fund was started by the Nigerian government, the German Development Bank, African Development Bank, CDC. They all put money in, and we've invested in 5 companies so far. LNZ Yogurts, which is in Kanu, is a yogurt company. Crest Agro, which is a cassava company. We also invested in a poultry company in Kwara. Crest Agro is in Kogi. And we've just recently invested in Koscharis Rice Farm in Anambra. So Koscharis has expanded from auto and technology to doing agriculture, and he's now started a rice farm in Anambra. We also have an investment in an oil company. So you can see there's so many different things. And with the consulting company, I work in every single sector around agriculture, helping a lot of clients build their businesses. And there's a lot of free information on our website on every value chain. Tomato, cassava, maize, because we've worked in every single value chain with many clients around the world. Now, when people think about agriculture, they think about farming. And last time I said agriculture is not farming. Can you tell your neighbor, agriculture is not farming? Every time I have an opportunity like this to speak, people tell me, my father left me a farm in Kogi or in Ibadan, and what should I do? Most of us should not go back to the farm. Sorry. That's not your core competency, right? But agriculture is everything from farm to the fork. If you carry a bag and it's a leather bag, what do you think it's from? And the amazing thing is that we don't know what we do with all the cow we eat in Nigeria. Who knows what happens to the leather from those cows? One more, some people said, yes, but the highest value is that it actually is exported to Italy, and it's being used by Ferragamo, Gucci, Prada to make the bags that Nigerian women go and buy for $8,000, $4,000. The same leather that we ate from Pomo is what they used to make Gucci. Even some of the shoes is Nigerian leather. Do you know that? Did you know that we export our leather? So agriculture is not just farming. Agriculture is everything along the value chain. Technology, financing. But the biggest value is around processing and value addition. It's not worth it to just grow cassava and sell it, right? But if you make it into high-grade cassava starch, people will be banging down your door trying to get it. Because cassava is now being used to make beer. Did you know that? I know I'm in church, so I can't talk about beer. But cassava is being used to make, golden morn. It's being used to make so many things. Even most of our pharmaceutical products are filled with high-grade cassava flour. And yet, when we think about cassava, we think about gari. That's the most basic step in the process. Now, in terms of Nigeria, when I think about this country, every single multinational is looking at Nigeria. I always tell this story. Many, many years ago, I was living in America, and I was a very junior consultant with a large consulting firm called McKinsey & Company. And we're looking at an acquisition for a multinational. And the MD of that company looked at our charts and said, Africa. Why do you have Africa on this chart? And the manager, my partner, said, we'll take it off, we'll take it off. It's not a growth opportunity, don't worry. We just that we have some Africans on our project. That's why they put Africa as a growth opportunity. Well, guess what? Last year, that same company came into Nigeria and spent a lot of money to enter this country through a joint venture. And when I met them, I had a good laugh. I told them this story. I said, you guys were laughing. Now you're paying a premium to come into this market. And guess what? Why do you think they're coming to Nigeria? Does anybody know? What is our population predicted to be? I told you when I came the last time. No, right now it's 198. It's predicted to be 450 million by 2050. So what are they looking at? This is going to be the third most populous country in the world. They said they're looking for mouths to feed. And the people going to eat? So every company is trying to come into Nigeria in a big way. And they're paying a premium to enter. And most of us are trying to do what? Leave. So what's the problem? There's a disconnect somewhere. What can they see that you can't see? Ask your neighbor, what can they see that you can't see? Shine your eye. Say it again to another person. Shine your eye. Why are we trying to run away? Some of us even crossing the desert and killing ourselves for people to come into our country and make money in our backyard. That's because we're very short-sighted. And it's a problem we have. We want instant profits today. When I ask young people, what do you want to do with your life? They say, I want to be very rich. I'm like, are you sure? What does it take to be very rich? We need to change our mindset. That's where it starts. With agriculture, it's really about everything associated with the clothes we wear, which is usually cotton, right? That's agriculture. To the food we eat, to the bags we wear, the shoes we wear, to the fabric on our furniture, to the paint on our walls, to the soap we use. What do you think makes up soap? Most of it. Do you guys know? Palm oil. And yet, do you know that we're importing most of the palm oil we use in Nigeria? Did you guys know that? Up to 60% is imported. Even some multinationals that make spreads for our bread, they're importing the palm oil because they can't meet the demand in this country. So there's so much opportunity in every nook and cranny of agriculture. Now, when we think about our space and why this sector is so important, it's because it's broken. The sector is what? Broken. Nigerians have the highest, we export, we're the #1 producer of cassava, yam, cowpea, second world producer of sweet potato, cashew, and okra, 4th producer of sesame. So most of the buns McDonald's sells all over the world has Nigerian sesame on top of it. But we don't even know. How many of you know that we export sesame from Nigeria? Who is the biggest exporter of sesame from Nigeria? Olam. Have you heard of Olam? They have, in fact, next time you're going to Ibadan, just look to the right, near Shagamu. You'll see a huge factory. All they do in that factory is sesame. One humongous factory. And yet we're thinking, there's nothing to do in Nigeria, there's nothing to grow. So the opportunities across the board in agriculture, around inputs, around extension. Now, we haven't been growing this sector, we've neglected it, because many of us wanted quick money, or we liked Nnamdi's industry, which looks very nice. Technology, doesn't it look easier? He can sit in an air-conditioned office and enjoy playing on his computer. That's what my house help says, that people play on their computer. I say, okay, come and play. Let me do your work. It looks easy. His own is not easy. But agriculture is a little more difficult. Why is it difficult? Because of the issue of a value chain. The value chain means that somebody has to do one piece of the puzzle. You have to wait on them to do the next. He has a value chain, but ours is a little more fragmented. Every industry has a value chain, but the agriculture one is a little more fragmented because we have smallholder farmers, and most of our farmers cultivate less than 1 hectare. We don't have enough people who want to go into commercial agriculture. So we still have to work with the smallholder farmers. Many of them we left in the village who have 1 hectare. But the interesting thing is if we can help them by buying from them and training them, then they can go from 1 hectare to 2 hectares to 5 hectares to 10 hectares, and then they can become medium-sized enterprises. Now, there's lots of money in the banking sector. That's already been talked about, so I won't bore you. But the challenge for us is really to change our paradigm. There are 2 companies traded on the Nigerian Stock Exchange that are doing extremely well, Okomo and Presco. Have you heard of them? And what do they do? And the beauty of palm oil is that nothing is wasted. No aspect of this value chain is wasted. Everything has value. Everything. And these companies have been around for a long time, and they're going to continue to be around. In fact, they're investing. We also have companies in the dairy sector. I mentioned L&Z yogurt. They are doing so well because they are producing fresh milk, which they are sourcing from Fulani herdsmen. They are producing yogurt, they are producing ice cream, and they're going to move into butter and cheese. Now, most of us don't realize that 99% of the milk consumed in Nigeria is what? Imported. Did you know that? Why is it imported when we have the largest cattle herd in Africa? I talked about this last time. Nobody remembers. Why is it being imported? We have the largest cattle herd. Because when we think about cows, what do we think about? Meats. We don't think about milk. It's a mindset issue. How can we have the largest cattle herd and yet we import 99% of the milk we consume? So we have to change our mindsets and recognize that the opportunities around food security, around the expanding middle class, the need for import substitution. Let me just talk about this expanding middle class. When I was growing up, we did not, in fact, I grew up in Enugu, but I'm from Anambra State. My grandmother would be given spaghetti to eat, and she'll say, I won't eat spaghetti. This thing looks like worms. How many of you remember? But today, what do you feed your child for breakfast? Huh? Now, let me just ask you to stop doing that, even though we supply noodle companies, please. Because it's not very nutritious. What is a better alternative for breakfast? What did we used to eat before? Pap, akara. What is akara? Beans. Yam. So why do we prefer Indomie? Because it's fast. It's convenient, right? And please don't tell all the noodle companies. We sell our spices to them. But the point is, it shows you that there's an opportunity for convenience foods that are healthy, right? Everybody wants to make something in 2 minutes and be on their way because we're working mothers, we want our children to eat, and we want to be full. We also need it to be affordable. So it means that for everything that we have that we grow, if we can find a way to package it so it's convenient, it will fill the same gap that Indomie is filling. What they did with that business is phenomenal. We can learn a lot from it. They found that people wanted convenient and they wanted affordable. So why is it that we've left this market for them instead of thinking about other alternatives? Every time I travel, I go to the supermarkets to see other convenient foods that they're doing in other parts of the world. And guess what? Ace Foods is introducing it, but I tell you, think about what you can do in that space. Think about the trends, and that's what Mr. Nnamdi was saying. What are the trends? And how can we leverage them in food? What are the trends in fashion? What are the trends in every sector, and how can we leverage them? When we think about cassava, I mentioned that a big trend is that every company in Nigeria that's an FMCG is saying, what can I do with import substitution? I've been importing something. How can I source it locally? If you go to them, they'll tell you. Let me give you an example, an easy one. Every fast food company in Nigeria that sells potato chips imports that potato chips. Did you know that? All the chips that are eaten in the fast food companies are imported. Why do you think they're imported? It's already sliced, it's frozen, so they can just pour it into the oil. Within 1 minute, it's ready. So why are Nigerians trying to produce sliced potatoes for fast food companies? First, we have to grow the right varieties. We have to make sure that we're willing to package them, and then we have to have a cold chain. For each of those steps, there is an opportunity. There's an opportunity for cold chain because there are fast food companies all over Nigeria. Do you know that many of them have to put those chips on planes every single day to get to Port Harcourt, to get to Kano? I'm not making it up. Ask them. So the first thing you can do is just to go and ask Chicken Republic, what do you need? You'll be amazed at what they tell you. The same with every single FMCG. Just go and ask them, what do you need? What are you struggling to get? And they'll tell you. That's how this woman started a company doing cassava. Yemisi Oriloye. Her company is called Sultry. She supplies cassava starch to Nestle and Nigerian breweries. She cannot meet the demand. Now they're using it for all sorts of products. It's an example of someone who saw a need and decided what? To fill it. There are opportunities in tomato processing. You've heard a lot about it. I think it was discussed by the previous speaker. There are opportunities in integrated poultry. We still import majority of the chicken we eat in this country. That we cannot meet the demand for chicken. If you ask KFC what is their biggest need, they'll tell you chicken. They cannot meet the need. Similarly, we import all the egg flour we use in this country. Egg powder. For everybody who makes ice cream, it's imported. For everybody who makes bread, it's imported. What can we do to start processing egg powder in Nigeria? Now, is it easy? It's not easy. I'm going to tell you that there are a few challenges with agriculture. The first is that the challenges that you face in every sector, you also face them in agriculture, around the growth cycle, the startup phase, the micro-enterprise phase, and then scaling. But there are unique issues that we have to talk about. The first one is governance. How many of you have businesses at the moment? Raise your hand. So quite a few of you. How many of you have boards of directors? Raise your hand. Very few. Why? The average Nigerian says, my company is too small to have boards of directors. I don't have money to pay people. You need a board of directors. All of you. But I'm not coming back here if you don't raise your hand that you have board of directors. I would have wasted my Saturday. Why do you need board of directors? Because nobody wants to give money to a one-man business. No one wants to spend their time with a one-man business. They want to know that there are people who are holding you accountable. Now, you don't have to pay them. If you take their time seriously and you take yourself seriously, from the beginning, you don't have to pay them. You just have to tell them, formally, I want you to sit on my board. I want you to come to 4 board meetings a year, and I want your advice. Trust me, for every business I've started, I've had a board of directors. And it has helped us survive. It has helped us avoid mistakes, and it has given us credibility. The first organization I came back to help start was Faith Foundation, that Fola Adiola is the founder of. And it helps young people start businesses. I was 25. I sat down with Fola Adiola to come up with our list of board of directors. I said it's important that even though you're a very successful entrepreneur, we have other people in part of this organization who can hold us accountable. It gave us instant credibility. Do you understand? Leap Africa, 3 years later, board of directors. And some of the people on my board as a 28-year-old were Lamido Sanusi, now the Emir of Kano. I wrote him and I said, can you serve on this board? Did I know him from Adam? No. He wasn't the Emir of Kano at the time. He was an ED at UBA before he became MD First Bank, right? But the truth is, if you find people who you are going to respect, they're going to hold you accountable. Not your family members. Don't put them on your board. Not your friends. Somebody like His Excellency Lamido Sanusi, I will have to prepare for a meeting with him because he's going to tell me this is what? Rubbish. What have you done? What impact are you making? Even with Ace Foods, our board members look at us and say, what is your 5-year business plan? What is your salary? They hold us accountable for delivering results. Only lazy entrepreneurs do not want a board of directors. Start off with 5 to 7. And Leap has written a very good book called Get On Board. How to build a high-impact board of directors. It's important to have governance because if you're going to get any of the funding, the big money that the CBN governor was mentioning, the CBN representative, 10 million, 20 million, even from Mr. Ken, he needs to know that you are a serious entrepreneur and that your company is going to outlive you. So you need to have a board of directors. You also need to comply with the law. I know we're in church, so everybody here pays their taxes. Right? They're very quiet. Do you know why it's important to comply? Because everybody is going to be looking at, once somebody comes into your business, they want to know that you're serious. I think he mentioned, the CBN representative said you have to have what? Tax ID number. Did you hear it? Hey, some people are scratching their head. You have to pay your taxes if you want any serious investor. Even grants, which are plenty in the agriculture sector. There are lots of grants. Grants means free money in this sector. But you have to be show that you're a credible and reputable company. You also have to widen your net. There's lots of money in the agriculture sector. Money is not the problem right now in agric. It's not the problem. There's more money chasing projects than there are people who are delivering the projects. Go and ask Yemisi, a real lawyer. She'll tell you how many people are banging on her door saying, please, let me give you money. We've talked about family and friends, banks, private equity, grants, technical assistance, and then non-financial institutions. When we're starting Ace Foods, we got money from the Innovation Against Poverty Fund. We got money from the AECF. And then we also qualified for a business innovation facility, which was technical assistance for us. And then you have to be able to think about your distribution channel and your supply chain. So let me just talk a bit about Ace Foods. So Ace Foods is a small company we started about 8 years ago, and our factory is in Sangoota. And we started this company because of 2 key issues. Number 1, the high rates of post-harvest losses in Nigeria. 40 to 60% of our fruits and vegetables go to waste. So right now we're excited because we have mango in season. How many of you like mango? Or abalumo? Udala, we call it udala. Now, we're excited, but in a few weeks, will we see mango again? And how much of it has gone to waste? 40 to 60%. Now, it's crazy because people look at us and they wonder, why would you let something like that go to waste? Why can't you preserve it? Why can't you process it? What can you do to make sure that all year round people can enjoy mango? We import canned corn from Thailand. Meanwhile, when corn is in season, everybody eats it and even throws it away. In a few weeks, in a few months, we'll start enjoying corn. Very soon, it will be out of season. What can we do? So that was one of the things that made me angry. The second was the high rate of malnutrition. We have one of the highest rates in the world. I said this last time. 1 out of every 5 children in Nigeria dies from malnutrition. In Nigeria, 1 out of every 3 children is malnourished. And in the north, 1 out of every 2 children is malnourished. When you're malnourished, what part of your body does it affect? Your brain. It is so bad that recently the deputy governor of Kano State said that when 20 years ago, it was even better than it is today. We're supposed to be getting better, we're getting worse. Now, if people don't want to go to school in the north, part of the reason is because some of them, their brain has not been fully developed. It's true, I'm not making it up. 60% stunting rates, stunting. So a child is this short, and they're 10 years old, and you're wondering why they're that height. So those two things made us angry, and we said, what can we do? 60% of our population works in agriculture. Let's process food for the local market. And so we started this food company called Ace Foods. And it wasn't easy. I told you last time there were lots of problems. But we now produce complementary foods, spices, seasonings, and commodities. We fight moderate malnutrition. We have a soya maize blend, Soso Nourish, and a beans flour, which we sell to address malnutrition. We have a presence in 10 states. We export to the Netherlands and the United States. And we work with 10,000 farmers, so we don't grow the food. We buy the food from the farmers, we train the farmers on what we want, and then we process it for the local market. How many of you have used our products? Hi, very few. Salem, I'm not coming back. Oh. We have ginger, garlic, turmeric, pepper soup spice, suya pepper, yellow pepper, jollof rice spice, fried rice spice. Thank you. Thank you. And we're ShopRite, Game, Spa, all of the usual places. But the truth is, the beauty of our product is that it's a proudly Nigerian product. And we have to patronize proudly Nigerian products. Tell your partner, support proudly Nigerian. We have to support proudly Nigerian. Now, wearing Ankara is not supporting the proudly Nigerian, no. In fact, I will tell you, somebody contacted me that they want to come to Nigeria, a very big company. They want to see the designs of our clothes so they can manufacture them. Most of the Ankara we're importing from India, from China, from Holland. And they want to learn how we do it so they can perfect it. Now, what we need to do is to figure out how we can start manufacturing our own clothes. We used to do that. We have akwete, ashoke, adire. They were made with natural products from our backyard. Do you know that? And when I first came to Nigeria as a student, I found out that there was a guy, very smart guy. He used to go to all the villages in Owo and ask mamas, Mama, open your closets, bring out your cloth. He would carry this cloth, hand-woven silk, and sell it in Japan to museums for $8,000, $10,000. He would give the mama something like 2,000 naira and go and sell it for 10. That's how he paid for his university education. How many of you know that your mamas have treasures? You better go and collect them. Go and collect them. Even their wadas that were made with, ikat. Have you heard of ikat? Dye that fell, indigo dye. Do you know what I'm talking about? This is how I did a whole study on it and I realized we're sitting on treasure in our backyard and we prefer imported Ankara, imported Ashoke. Not knowing that the culture and the traditions of our mothers and grandmothers are worth tremendous amounts of money and are extremely valuable. So the point is, let's change our mindset about proudly Nigerian products. Let's understand what we have. Now, with agriculture across the value chain, you make a difference because from the farmers' lives we're improving to the transporters who are bringing the products, to the logistics providers, to the women who are selling our products, we're improving lives along the way. To the people who are eating our products and knowing that they're getting better food. And I mentioned the last time that with the dairy development project we're doing, we're putting Fulani farmers into clusters. They're supplying milk to Friesland, Campina. So when you work in this sector, you improve the lives of people across the board. We're teaching people how to plant feed so that they can sell it to the Fulani herdsmen so they don't have to travel. Do you know that feed is a business? Have you heard of hay? You go abroad and you see piles of hay. That's what we're teaching people how to create. If you can sell hay to the Fulani herdsmen, they don't have to travel looking for fodder. So it's a business opportunity. So in Oyo State and Kano State, we're helping people grow feed for cows. It's amazing that in Nigeria, we don't have a developed value chain at all for dairy. We don't have veterinary doctors. We don't have anybody who can do artificial insemination. So we're creating a whole value chain for them in partnership with LNZ and Friesland Campina. The last piece I want to talk about, as we enter food, I hope I've tried to stretch your mind about the opportunities that exist. Is your mind being stretched? But as you stretch your mind, also remember that as a Christian, we have to have what? Integrity. We have to have what? Integrity. Something I've encountered and I recently wrote about is called food fraud. Do you know about food fraud? Food fraud, where somebody tells you this is milk, but there's no animal protein in it. Or you buy juice and it says juice, 100% juice, but what percentage of juice is there? 2%. Or somebody sells you something called yam flour, but it's 100% potato flour, imported. There's no yam inside. In Africa, we have a problem right now with food fraud, and it's killing our people. I actually argue that it's killing more people than the fake drugs are killing people. So when you hear people are dropping dead every day, you don't understand what we're doing to ourselves. And last time I told you that we had a personal experience with Ace Foods. When we started the company, we got a quote from one of our customers who said, supply us chili pepper. So we supplied them chili pepper. And they said, it's too expensive. In fact, it's 3 times the price of this other company. So we said, give us what that other company has given you. We took it, we found out it wasn't chili, it was maize flour. They dyed it red, and they put the chili extract. Now, there's no problem with it, because there are some food fillers. But the dye is carcinogenic. It's called Sudan red. That's what people use in palm oil in Nigeria right now. There's some palm oil that's dyed red. In Ghana, it's the same thing. To make it look like very fresh. But unfortunately, it kills people. And in other parts of the world, it's been banned. In South Africa, it's been banned. So what can we do as Nigerians? If you're going to start any business, and I'm sure Mr. Nnamdi will agree with me, you have to do the right thing. Be honest about what you're giving your customer. Don't think about short-term gains. Think about glorifying God through your business. Label correctly. Give the truth at all times. With agriculture and this idea that you feel uniquely placed to solve because of your skills, because of your passion, you will succeed. The field is wide open. But what we have in Nigeria, and I'll be honest, is that we have a lot of copycats. Do you know what copycats are? A lot of you, I help a lot of entrepreneurs. So people come and tell me, I want to start a fashion business. I want to start a makeup business. I want to start a jewelry business. I'm like, why you? What is unique about jewelry and you? Has God called you? Or you just saw Mama Ada or Mama Shehu doing well with their jewelry business? Start something that you feel uniquely placed to start. Where you feel there's a need, I've been called by God to fill that need, because it's a long road. You don't get rich overnight. When I started Ace Foods with my husband, from making $100,000, my salary was 50,000 naira. Business Day put us as one of the most innovative companies in Nigeria. Right? Ebony Live TV gave us a Sisterhood Award. And now I'm not even on the payroll. We have a team on the payroll. And the team is running the company very well. Do you understand? So we've put in place systems and structures to make sure the company can outlive us. So I sit on the board. I'm not on salary. My salary is from Sahel. But it shows that in 8 years, you can build a company where this year I've been to Ace Foods 3 times. The company is running. Do you know? It's about building, making sure that you employ people who know that they have a future in the company. And I agree with Nnamdi. Don't employ your relatives. Help them get another job elsewhere. I talked about this. I'm rounding up now. I've been told my time is up. I talked about the projections for our country. If you don't leave with anything that I've said, leave with the fact that Lagos is going to have 50 million people by 2050. Can you say to your neighbor, 50 million? 50 million. Where will they sleep? It means there's opportunity in what industry? Housing and construction. Okay, what about transportation? We need to use our waterways because we're not going to be able to use the roads. Okay, what about sanitation? What about water? For every single sector, there are opportunities for every entrepreneur who's serious. I am concerned about what they're going to eat. Maybe you should be concerned about what schools they're going to go. What about hospitals? What about drugs? Do you understand? For every single opportunity, every single problem, there's what? An opportunity. There are opportunities that are vast. And when you look at these people in my picture, you saw them? Have you seen these people before? Huh? Everywhere you go in Nigeria, you see mouths to feed. You see people who need health care. You see people who need their children educated. There are opportunities. Somebody is going to take advantage of them if you don't. Now, lastly, I just gave a TED Talk. How many of you have watched my TED Talk? If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. I'm so glad that you have a pastor and a leader who's committed to change. But I'm challenging you to leadership to do more, okay? There's so much to be done. I gave this TED Talk recently, and I've gotten a lot of calls from a lot of Christians who say, what can we do to make a difference in our society? And I'm challenging you, church members, partner with your church, just like you've partnered with them to organize this event, to do more in our society. I'll give you an example. Nigeria has a literacy rate of 50%. Did you guys know that? It means that half of us can read and write. It means that some people who come to this church don't know what they can't read the Bible for themselves. So what can we do to ensure that every day when people come in here, in addition to learning the Word of God, we're teaching them how to read and write? We take it for granted. You can read and write, right? Do you know that half of the population cannot? So they can't move very far in business. There's only a limit you can go to if you can't read and write in business. Because at some point, you need to understand the financial statements. By the time you're big enough for an auditor to audit your accounts and you don't know how to read the accounts, there's a problem. Are you going to ask your son to read your financial accounts for you? It's never too late. We need an adult literacy center. Salem, please, in addition to your business school, think about an adult literacy center. Fantastic. In Lekki Phase 1, I have not found one. I have not found one. And there are so many boys hanging around who, during the day, this place can be their school. Let them learn how to read and write. We need to change our mindsets as people of God. God has sent us here as change agents. Each of us, through the way we live our lives and what we do every day, can make a difference. And we need to partner with other churches. Hey, hello. Together, we can make a difference. I know I'm expanding beyond my protocol, but I'm ending up by saying, I really confidently believe that this is a unique time in our history in Nigeria, and that God is looking for men and women who exemplify Him through the lives they live, how they spend their resources, how they spend their time, how they use everything they have been given. And God is calling us to die empty. Tell your neighbor, die empty. It means that every resource that has been deposited in you has to be fulfilled. And you leave this earth knowing that you have served Him well, and He's going to say, thy good and faithful servant, well done. May that be said of us. Finally, there are some resources on our website on every single value chain, and they are free. So please write it down. sahelcp.com, and just download if it's tomato, soya bean, anything, mechanization, if you want to rent tractors, whatever it is you want to do, it's free and it's on our website. And you can follow us at Sahel CP Advisory to get more information. Finally, I just want to thank you again for this opportunity and say that I'm available to support you. I brought one of my books for the pastor. Last time he gave me some of his books. Archbishop, you sent me all these wonderful books. Thank you very much. You're a very prolific writer, and I bless God for your life. And Madam, thank you very much. God bless you all.
Wow, wow, wow. If you are excited, can you just jump those two hands together? Wow. Wow. I'm sure we can't get over this. You know, the section continue to get better by the day. And I pray by this time next year, we will have a minimum of 100 people that will be exhibiting their agricultural products. And you know, while she was talking, so many things was running through my mind, and I was just jotting things I must do. Thank you, ma, for that wonderful privilege. And I'm sure what we do with the message, these teachings, this section that we're doing is what matters. Please, let's not just waste the time of the facilitators. Let's make sure that whatever we have received will move to the next level. Please, we're going to have a time for question and answer. Just keep writing down your questions, and I'm sure that our facilitators are also still here to answer that. But I have another person to introduce to us. You know, it's always getting better, so you can't just get tired with it. He's a man that is into beauty industry. He has reconstructed the way, you know, beauty is delivered. He's the MD of Make Me Beauty Salon. And grew up in the city known for its numerous SMEs and homegrown entrepreneurs. He attended Clifford Primary School and Macy Commercial College. Ugochukwu received several awards for his innovative hairstyles and entrepreneurship. It is my privilege, as you join me this afternoon, to welcome no other person, Mr. Ugochukwu George Ibokwe, to take this section.
I greet you, the leadership of the church, the Archbishop of the church. Good afternoon, sir. And your lovely wife, good afternoon, ma. Bishop yourself. I heard when he was saying our father and your father. And I'm like, okay, very well said. Because sometimes when things are said, it will be misunderstood and you will not understand that it particularly pertains to you. Our father, that's all. He doesn't need to expatiate it, but your father. I was like, all right. I am most honored to be here. I thought I was here to teach, to share ideas. But I've found out that I came here to learn. Someone once said to me, someone that I sat under his tutorship, he said, the best way to teach, the best way to learn is to teach. And it was one of the things that I had sometime in the past that I didn't get hold of the meaning properly. And in the course of time, the full revelation of it unfolded, and it was how I wish I knew or I understood this then. And sometimes I had to beat myself for not understanding that message or not getting exactly what was communicated. And in the course of time, I've come to realize sharing knowledge takes nothing away from you. It's not stopping you from growth. It's not stopping you from, it's not absolutely stopping you from nothing. How also I wished that people that started my industry in Nigeria that have been practicing this got this same revelation, knew that you need to impact to even grow. My industry is a typical example. We have not been developing anybody. We've not been sharing ideas. You know, one of those things that you feel you have to keep it to yourself alone, and only you will be the Alpha and Omega. Whatever such thing is mentioned, oh, your name. Let me say something. If I live here now, if anything here is mentioned, tell me, what name would you remember? Make me. Because I came to share ideas. Because I came to share knowledge. But if I'd said, I'm not going to talk about things I did, how I did them, how I started, so nobody else will follow that trail and became another Ugo or another Make Me, possibly overtaking Make Me, you will not even know about me. You would not. L'Oreal Group, before I go to my story, L'Oreal Group called me one day. I was in a photo shoot with a company that I'm their stylist ambassador in Africa. And we were creating looks for their new brand. And I got a call, and it says it's from L'Oreal. I'm like, okay. You know, sometimes a good thing comes to you, first thing that will hit you is doubt. Are these people real? So I kept my cool and I said, okay, so what can I do for you? And he said, we've been trying to get hold of you. Where are you? Someone was sent to your office and you're not there. I'm like, okay, I'm in a photo shoot with a company that I represent. It's a company that you represent. What are they into? What do they do? And I explained. It's a weave and attachment company. It has nothing to do with hair product and treatment. They said, oh, okay, nice. These companies can be jealous. They said, nice. And they said, we are looking for a partner. And we've gone around, spoke to a lot of people. Somehow we are still referred back to you. Your name still. I said, okay, so what do I do? They said, we want to see you tonight. I'm talking about 4:30 thereabout in the evening, early evening. And they said, so how long will you be? I said, with a photo shoot, I don't know. It can be any time. They said, we are waiting for you. I said, it might be up to 8 p.m. They said, we are waiting for you. Then I became more curious and more doubtful. Multi-international company want to wait till 8 p.m. and 8 p.m. and whatever time. I'm like, I said, okay, who do I call? Where are you guys? Their office is at Etiebet's place at that point in time. And they said Etiebet's place. I said, okay, no problem. I said, once I'm done, I will call you guys. And then I started calling everybody I know in the industry. Where is L'Oreal's office? Are these guys truly here, self? You know, L'Oreal Group from Paris. And then I gathered my information. Yes, they were real. And eventually I went. That's how partnership began with L'Oreal. And I'd had something Do you know what gave me that opportunity? Knowledge that I shared with young hairdressers. And what I said was my passion, what is tearing me apart. And I said to them, I look at myself now and I ask myself, how many years more do I have to stand behind the chair and style anyone's hair? Anybody, I don't know who it is, that will say you're top there, that I've never heard of my name, or probably or possibly I've not done your hair. How many more years do I have to stand behind the chair making hair? So, if I'm not here anymore, what happens to the whole business that we've created, that we've grown up to this stage? What happens? I said, I need you guys to understand what I'm saying. This is not me trying to cajole you or trying to tell you come to training, or this is me trying to tell you the future of the industry that we've taken, that we've called our own. The future of it. And I begin to share with them one of the reasons why we don't have chain of salons in Nigeria. Anyone that tries to branch out, sorry. You either decide if you're going to keep the new branch and close the old one, or close the new one and go back to the old one. You must take a decision, but you will close one of it. And the more you spread, the more it becomes what nobody wants to walk into anymore. I shared what is obtainable abroad. The lifespan of every stylist in a salon is 4 years. You cannot work in a salon for more than 4 years. I had that first in business, salon business meeting in Atlanta, 2006. And I didn't take it serious. I was really upset. So what nonsense are you guys talking about? So after 4 years that I must have finished training people, at that point I want to believe they will be one of my best hands. Then I will send them away. I became so upset. Everything that was discussed there didn't go down well. Just little do I know, there were a lot of things, you know, in that class, it was like, okay, everybody is on same level. We all have same knowledge. Then I have not attended a hairdressing school, a beauty school then. So I did not get what they were saying. I was really upset. Why that is, if you cannot be a member of the company, they don't call the salons salon anymore. They call it company. Chain of salons. You see someone having 150 salons in one country. 150 in one country. And ironically, the menu that they offer, their services are very limited. Unlike what we do in Nigeria. We are into everything beauty. Everything. From nails to facial to hair to pedicure to braids, everything. And you see a salon abroad, they are just specialized on one service. As a matter of fact, there is one. If your hair is not up to your shoulder length and long, they don't have service for you. You don't come into their salon. And I begin to find out, why would it be so? If that's what they're doing and they are more successful, I need to know. Do you know what they do? Very simple. They don't have time to waste with you. You're fresh out of a beauty school, you major in hairdressing, they take you in. And you have only 3 years to work in that salon. 2 years is to make sure you do exactly the same way that company called Salem does their things. Every procedure is same. You don't have to come and change anything. Just like the restaurants. Just imagine maybe Chicken Republic giving you a franchise, and you suddenly remember your mother's recipe. That will not be Chicken Republic anymore. It will not be anymore. The food definitely tastes different. The third year, they monitor and watch closely your loyalty to the company, your sincerity. And after the third year, they will give you partnership. That's how a new branch will be given birth to. Some people, not everybody that does not have money to set up a salon. Some people will say, instead of me opening a new salon, giving birth to a new brand, let me buy a franchise. In fact, let me take this whole location. And then the brand is expanding. But it's really not the case here. Like Nnamdi really said, everybody have identified that, you like it or not. I don't know if it's worse in my industry. Maybe somebody here would attest to what I'm about to say. A lot of people feel professionalism is how long you've done something for. The fact that you've done it for 10, 20 years, you know, how long you've done it for, you will say, I'm a professional. A lot of people in my industry call themselves professional because they've been in a hairdressing industry for years. That is not true. Being a professional, first of all, starts from being certified to do what you're doing. That is acquiring the knowledge. Basic. The fact that you're certified to do that, does that then mean you're truly a professional? It does not end there. I always give example with hospitals, and I say things like, no matter how poor a hospital is, no matter how poor, you will still find hospital bed. You will not walk into that hospital and find wooden bed. Bed is bed, isn't it? Bed is bed. No matter. But some people still call themselves professionals, and you walk into their environment and you're asking yourself, am I sure I'm in the right place? Is this where I got the address to go to? It's a whole lot of things put together. And above all, whatever you practice, following and observing every protocol that is needed. You don't have to cut corners. If I would explain it in a different way from what Nnamdi said, which gave him credibility, how would an IT technician become a professional when he lies to you and tell you something else is wrong with your device, and then he's doing something else? You know, we see that with our mechanics. So many issues. But every sector in Nigeria today, our what is the word? I'm trying to remember the word for hand-working people. Artisans. It's the same issue. We might want to take it back to the schools, the technical schools. It has gone so bad that I myself, somehow, I know everything about plumbing. I can say that I know everything. When it has to do with my business, the hairdressing business, pretty much everything electrical up to 90%. I know everything by name. Plumbing, electricals, everything. That will bring me to the name I want to call the message I'm about to give, the things that I want to share, the story that you're about to hear. I simply want to ask, what have you done different from the norm? How have you done it different? What have you done different? How did I get to know about some of these electrical things and plumbing things? How? If you know you want to start your own business and grow it, let me see your hands up. Ha! All right. Almost every hand. But if I continue with the exercises, as much as us that raised our hand, you see that those hands will not go up anymore. In fact, if you take it up, it will slowly drop. Subconsciously. You want to start. What is the motivating factor? Motivation for me is not rewards. It's not extra givings. It's not what I get from external. Motivation for me is not external. If you're not self-motivated, Nandi went to work with his friend for free. All the people that raised their hands up, that I want to start their own business and grow it. Let me see who is working for free. Not even one. Not one. Not one. Oh, one. Okay, two. Okay, now, come on. Did you guys just hear me? Are you just hearing me now? Come on. I'm not going to take that hand that just went up. What is the motivating factor? Ndidi spoke about what are you bringing different? Why you? Why do you think you want to do that same thing other people have been doing? Why do you think you will make it different? The only reason I can see why he will work in a place for free is self-motivation. All he cares for is that knowledge. He wants to grab everything happening there. Everything. Yeah, like you rightly heard, I started as a barber. That story. And I'm not going to tell you, I'll be a liar if I tell you that everything that I did then was me knowing exactly what I was doing, like it's a strategy, I planned it. No. It was just who I am. And to make you understand who I am, I started as a barber in Aba, yes, working for a salon called Ozone. And it's a choice place. You know, one of that spots where everybody in town knows that is the place for all the big boys, the rich. If you're who and who in the town and you're not going there, no. We had a color theme. To my eyes, it's so beautiful. It's beautiful. Simply beautiful. And before I knew it, A lot of other salons, barbing salons are springing up, and everybody is following exactly the same thing that we did. Same concept. As a matter of fact, same size. Everything same. They were replicating exactly the same thing. At that point, I was the cashier of the barbing salon. I was the manager of that salon. Indirectly, somehow, I was also the cleaner. I don't know how that happened. That I can't, because that was not discussed with anybody. Somehow, you know. Because of all of that, after work, I don't find it okay going home. You know, I will just sit in the salon and start cleaning and touching up and all of that. I so enjoyed doing it. I remember one day, I woke up and I said, ozone has to remain ozone. There will not be any other ozone. Because at that point, some other salons have started springing up and they are making wave, and you can't tell so much. There was not so much difference between us and them anymore. I said, we need to be number one that we are. I did not discuss with my boss. And I went to the market with the company's money. That's where the man wants to kill me. With the company's money. I bought paint, bought brushes, came back. I couldn't wait for the salon to close. The thing was, and I started painting. I changed everything. From red and white and a touch of black, I changed everything to white, gray, savorish, and white. Everything. My oga walked into his salon with his best friend. His name is Ike. He walked in. He slid the door open. He closed it back. He said, Ugochukwu, Ogini. He came outside again. And he looked. He said, then when he looked on his return, he now slid the door. Bah! Hey, Ogini. He said, what is it? My saving grace that day was the fact that he came with his friend, his best friend. I cannot tell what my imagination was telling me that could have happened to me if he was to come there alone. His friend grabbed him. I went like, Oga, please, calm down. Calm down. I'm only going to ask you for 1 week forgiveness.